Hello and welcome to another Mental Wealth Moves podcast. I'm your host, Casey Dubravcic, and today we're talking about red light therapy, who should use it, why you should consider it, and I also go into, as I do, lots of other different interesting things to me. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get right to it. Welcome to another Mental Wealth Moves podcast. I'm your host, Casey Dubravcic. And today we're talking about red light therapy. In this episode, you'll learn about the up and coming field of red light therapy. You'll learn about potential benefits, potential pitfalls, as well as a little bit more about sunlight exposure, ozone therapy, and more. So thanks for joining us, and let's get started. Good day. My name's Casey Dubravcic. I'm a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. I'm the owner and operator and founder of Revitalized Ketamine Clinics with locations in Flagstaff, Arizona, Sedona, Arizona, and Prescott Valley, Arizona, serving all of Arizona in a telemedicine capacity as needed. I am also the owner and founder and visionary, I like visionary, behind Rocked Wellness Bar, because Rocked, where we want you to live your best life. And this is the Mental Wealth Moves podcast, because the best investment you can ever make is in yourself. Also, the co-founder of Epic Biosciences. So I'm excited to join you today. Lots of cool stuff happening in the realm of health and wellness. And I'm happy to be a purveyor of many of those new and I would say reimagined, rediscovered, and tuned to modern science. I like to say, and I got a lot of corny one-liners, and if you listen to me long enough, you'll probably hear them all multiple times, so you're welcome for that. I like to say it's a super exciting time to be in medicine because we're proving past wisdom with science. And so I'm very, very excited to talk to you today about red light therapy. Red light therapy is as old as time, right? And so there's visible and invisible spectrums of light that we're exposed to on a daily basis. Radio waves, cell phone radiation, ultraviolet light, red light, blue light, all sorts of cool stuff. And it's all out there, like the other ends of a rainbow that you can't see, right? So it's very much in our normal field. And how do we harness that power? How do we live our best lives using this cool, new and old, reimagined component of wellness? And so, the cheapest and easiest way and the best way, in my opinion, is, and what the evidence would support, is low angle sun, particularly sunrises and sunsets. There's a reason they're so pretty, because they are so dang good for you. They will reset your circadian rhythm, or kind of sync it up back to normal sleep-wake times. We're exposed to so much artificial lighting these days that it can be really, really beneficial to just have a reset. I'm in psychiatry, and I've been in healthcare since 2004. And I know for sleep stuff in particular, 95% of sleep-wake disorders will go away if you spend 5 days out in the woods with no artificial lighting. And I'm talking no headlamps, no car headlights, no anything artificial. And so that is challenging. I'm not going to lie. Spending 5 days away, like, we're human doings at this point, right? We aren't human beings. And so for you to just even embrace seasonality, and for you to go spend 5 days away from this stuff, virtually impossible. And that's sad, right? It really is. It's a big deal, and you're an outlier if you do find a way to make 5 days away from regular consumerist-based society be able to occur. And it's possible. Let's normalize it. Let's normalize seasonality. Let's normalize a 4 to 5 hour work day in the winter and a 10, 11, 12 hour work day in the summer. And let's normalize more play. I posted a video of me playing with the Hot Wheels this morning. I miss my big silly Cybertruck. Thing saved my oldest son's life, and I'm a big fan of reducing waste and finding issues in systems and fixing them. And that's been a hard thing to do in a big system for a long time. So I think that it's good to shake the snow globe periodically. I'll be the first to, jump on a campaign if I see real signs of a devolving society or true hatred towards or prejudice towards a certain ethnicity or race or belief structure. And that being said, I'm not seeing it. So I'm seeing a prejudice towards waste and usage. And so I think that that's totally fine. I'd rather not spend hundreds of millions of dollars on things far removed from what I would argue are society's big issues going on. And I'd love to see my uncles who are depending on a social security check every week to be able to collect that and or get a raise. And I think that's where more extra money should go, is towards supporting our veterans and supporting our elderly. I feel like if you raise the lowest 1%, then you'll do a lot better. Like, that's the vision behind Rocked. And another friend of mine is working on a really cool program, and I've always been a big proponent of this. So like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? On that bottom is that safety and security. And so I tell people, if they aren't in a safe environment, it can be very much unsafe to have them do the ketamine treatments that I provide, because you're actually making it safe to feel safe, and without having an actual safe environment, reducing the intensity of coping strategies that were born on purpose could potentially be putting a person in more danger. And so I don't want that, right? And so I think it's so important to provide an environment conducive to safety and healing. And so having space, like, again, so like Rocked in its, real kind of biggest vision is a 4-story glass building. On the bottom half of it is a real wellness bar. And so like tea and coffee and adaptogens and nootropics and healthy functional mushroom and medicine elixirs, and socializing, right? And dance and play and connection, karaoke, and open mic Wednesdays and flow Fridays and those types of things. Like real bring the community together, create community. We're all a combination of the 5 people we spend the most time with and we think about the most. And so trying to be around people that are also trying to raise the vibration and trying to become the best versions of themselves. And then the other half of the bottom floor, that's a gym. So that's physical activity, normalizing pushes and pulls, and cardiovascular, and, all those things that can really be conducive to living your best life. Second story is like those day treatments, like float tanks and oxygen bar and ketamine therapy and other eco-dissolution agents as they become widely available and legal in a safe environment. I think some of those longer eco-dissolution agents should really be considered to be used outside or in a kind of outside welcoming environment. Ketamine, particularly IV ketamine, is and I just posted a post on the 5 reasons it should be considered before any other ego-dissolution agent or in concurrence with that decision-making process. And for these 5 reasons. 1, it's the best bioavailability, like 95% bioavailability intravenously. 2, it's the best safety profile. So really no risk of serotonin syndrome like there are with other ego-dissolution agents. 3, it's the only legal version, which I think is super important, because then that reduces shamanism, which is something that I think people should be more and more concerned about as these things become more available, because there is a risk of the healer or people thinking that they're the healer and taking that power away from you. So you'll always be your own best healer, and I'll be the first to admit it. And I want to reiterate that and empower you to do that work. And so if I'm ever saying that I'm your healer, or if someone else is, and that they're going to heal you, you know, I would advise you to do more vetting. And that's a potential pitfall because people don't know what they don't know. And when things are running underground, there isn't very good oversight. And so, there's churches and all these things, and, they're circumventing legality. And some of them are doing an incredible job. Don't get me wrong. Like, they're accessing, helping people access growth inside of themselves that would otherwise be inaccessible. And so I'm all for that. And there are some players in the field that are doing a terrible job and creating secondary trauma and entering sexual relationships with clients who are already victimized. You're in such a suggestible state when you are under the influence of an ego dissolution agent that you can really be kind of molded or made to believe a lot easier someone else's belief structure. And so that's why Revitalized Ketamine Clinic, our ethos, and Rocked Wellness Bar, our ethos is to turn the key and get out of the way. If we are doing a CAP type model of ketamine-associated psychotherapy, then we really want to make sure that the foundation is set super solid. There's so much transference and countertransference when it comes to ego dissolution agents that you really need to be wary of what someone reminds you of or you remind them of. And so it goes both ways. Like I've seen therapists, and I, as a therapist, chose not to work with someone in the past just because I know that it wouldn't be good for me or for therapeutic rapport or for the client ultimately for us to continue to work together. And I think that's true of all therapists. Like 75%, an amazing therapist is really good for 75% of clients that they see, because this is the nature of human beings. Some people are just going to butt heads. And so the second story is kind of all those day treatments, IV hydration, injectable therapies, and AD+, red light therapy panels. Yeah, it's right. I didn't forget what I was talking about. You're welcome. I know I go off on a little tangent sometimes. I enjoy it. And so, you're tuning into my podcast, so you're welcome for that. So, that's the second story, Rock, is all those kind of day treatments where you have interventions. We're interventional psychiatry. That's what I like to think of with Revitalized Ketamine Clinic. And Rocked Wellness Bar is so much more than that. Like the true vision of Rocked in RKC fits right inside of there real neatly. And so it's a niche for a wider market. And then everyone could use revitalizing, I think, to some extent. And only until you've revitalized could you really optimize. I've seen people who are yoga instructors and people who are these purveyors of wellness and harbingers of goodness who haven't done their own healing work, really. And so, they really aren't, like I would say, optimized as much as surviving. They're not thriving. And so all these things we know are really good for your mental health, physical health, spiritual health, yoga and meditation and connectedness, and eating healthy and all those things. And if you aren't revitalized, if you haven't had that kind of core remembrance to work off of, and you can get there lots of ways. I think that's super important to recognize. Ketamine is one of the fastest, safest ways to get there, in my opinion. And that's what I've seen as well, and that's what the evidence supports. That being said, no one needs it. Like, it is an off-label usage. And then some of the psychedelic effects, I would argue, are really side effects and can be really helpful for some people, some of that insight. And some people, it's totally unnecessary, like not really a thing. And it's much more in the neuroplastogen effects of that treatment. And so, like, that, where that fresh fallen snow is, where that new dendritic connections are, where that synaptogenesis took place, the capacity to change. I had a client say it, and I just love it, and I'm claiming it as my own. Ketamine is a catalyst, not a cure. I'll stick with that. And so that optimizing only takes place after that. And then, that's kind of the daily practice stuff, the meditation, physical activity, human connection. And then harmonizing is really living your best life, right? That's living in that ikigai, that Venn diagram overlap of what you're good at, what you're passionate about, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. That's really where we should be devoting our ideas and our strengths as a society. Get away from consuming and start doing. Instead of imposter syndrome, think of it as beginner's mind, right? And so, like a lack of experience, right? It's not imposter syndrome. You just haven't done it enough to feel confident in it. And so, start doing, and then you're going to get better at it. That's how that works. And so, you should do more and consume less. Is the long and the short of that. And so that's Rocked is all about that, like creating that best life. So the day treatments up there kind of help people. Therapy I would put in there, group therapies I'd put in there. Again, float tank, IV hydration, ketamine services, psychiatric services, transcranial magnetic stimulation, amazing. Redlight panels. See, I said we're still doing it. And then the third story is like that inpatient kind of stay unit, right? And see, I'm circling back. And so up to 180 days of an inpatient stay where, 30 days, like if, self-medicating has really been a thing for you for a while. And we can self-medicate in so many different ways, and everyone does to some extent. And so, it's like where the damage takes place, that's when it's considered a disorder. And so if you're not cultivating relationships that you'd like, just past the Verde River, it's so pretty. And the sunrise, I love it. If you're not really utilizing, if you're self-medicating, and you're causing damage to relationships. And so if that is, too much alcohol, too much marijuana, too much pornography, too much eating, too much yoga, we can do kind of anything to really self-medicate and try to get away from feeling those feels. And so lots of ways to do it. When there's damage, then we want to try to recognize, okay, where is this coping strategy born out of? And let's mitigate that for a little bit, and then let that feeling surface, and then we can understand ourselves better. Like again, that Maslow's hierarchy of needs: bottom, safety and security; top is self-actualization, like understanding who you are. And then I like to flip that pyramid. I think the next 3 steps are true love for yourself is the very next one. All the shoulda, woulda, coulda, didn't does. And then above that, only after you love yourself, I would argue, are you capable of truly loving other people? Like at the core, not out of martyrdom, not out of need to protect, not out of, like that idolizing or pedestalizing. And then after that, true love for everything and everyone for all the stuff that they bring. And it's a moving target, right? That Ram Dass quote is another one of mine. Once we, well, not mine, but his, and I do reference it a lot just because I think it's so apropos to the work. The healing journey is just that. It's a journey. It's not a destination. You might plateau along the way. And hopefully you're working on your Kaizen, trying to become slightly better, 1% every day. That atomic habits decision tree in regards to, am I going to play on my phone for the next 30 minutes? Am I going to press snooze for 30 minutes? Or am I going to get out of bed and am I going to do a meditation? Which one of those do you think might start your day off better? And then, after you chose to just sit on your phone, do I try to go back to sleep, or do I get up and start working on that project I need to work on? So it's like all those little micro decisions that don't seem really big at the time that kind of add up to having a good day or not. And you can switch it at any time, right? So that's pretty cool. Like you always have that power. And so establishing that safety is so powerful before you start doing the work. And so that safety, for is reducing those coping strategies. And so like being able to reduce or just stop, abstain from those coping strategies for 30 days, and then be able to go into that deep healing work. And so I would argue, let's do a real detox. Like you're spending time outside, you're being physically active, you're hanging out in the wellness bar, you're learning how to connect with people and how to be safe in sobriety of whatever it is. I'd say sober from pornography, sober from gambling addiction, sober from alcohol or marijuana, benzodiazepines, or whatever they are, with medical oversight, right? Like some of those things coming off of can be medically dangerous. And so being able to have oversight and safety while you're examining that and becoming the best version of yourself, so powerful. My friend is working on creating this vision to some extent, and so I'm so excited, and I want to be a champion for her to be able to create that and give her more tools and access and knowledge, because that's something I've always felt really powerfully about, and so really cool stuff. Might be another rock out there. And then that third story is like like it's a wellness living, right? And so up to 180 days, we want to be there indefinitely because we want to create communities that are based on these premises. And then the fourth story, like a rooftop garden kind of lounge, hang out and just have deep conversations and meditate, yoga nidra, all those fun things, classes, all that stuff with some sunlight. And so let's get into red light therapy. That was a long intro, right? So red light therapy is the use of red light for therapeutic reasons. And so there are the red light panels we have at Rock actually incorporate blue light, which is low level blue light and helps with many different things. And so there's the spectrums of visible light and invisible light. And so again, the cheap version, and the best version in some ways is that low angle sun. So waking up with the sun, going to sleep with the sun, in regards to watching the sunrise and watching the sunset. Super helpful for so many different reasons. The ultraviolet light, which is the 100 to 400 nanometer wavelength, those are good for vitamin D synthesis, so good for bone health, good for your immune system, good for immunology and just kind of being healthy in large part, and bone density. And too much UV radiation can cause significant skin issues. Knowing that the CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, depleted our ozone in our stratosphere, the Montreal Act in 1987 was designed to mitigate CFC, chlorofluorocarbon emissions, and thereby helping the ozone layer to reestablish itself, and should be completely reestablished by 2100, I guess, is what the current evidence points towards, except for some companies are being very sneaky and emitting CFC 11. And so being cognizant of that, and that being an issue, and ozone being one of those big protective factors for the UV light not being so damaging from the sun. So, in our naturally created world, without the hard, like the human-made concentrations of things, like nothing's inherently good or bad, right? The dose makes medicine, dose makes the poison. And so UV radiation is good in low amounts, bad or in normal amounts. In low amounts, it's bad too, right? In good amounts or in high amounts, it's bad too. And so same thing with everything. Like too much water will kill you. Too little water will kill you. So that's a very dramatic example. And it's incredibly important. Like that's what makes a good provider, I think, is the dose makes the medicine, dose makes the poison. People can absolutely overdo ketamine therapy. And that's what Tim Ferriss talks about, is that ubiquitous access with companies like Mind Bloom and Diversion and Cells happening in classrooms and high schools and middle schools. Like that's bad. Like that's not how it should be used as much as possible in Western medicine. I really want to use these treatments as sacred. They're very powerful, have the capacity to help people heal themselves very dramatically. And I want to increase access to that, not reduce access. So that's why it's so important to me for these treatments to be delivered ethically, in that they're given on purpose. I still haven't used ketamine therapy. And that's in large part by design. I feel like if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. And so the 1960s, 1970s, huge body of evidence coming out about how effective all ego dissolution agents were for helping people, like curative for PTSD, curative for depression, curative for anxiety, curative for alcohol use disorder. And at least in part, what occurred, in my opinion, looking back at history, is a lot of the clinicians, a lot of the researchers started getting high on their own supply and then started joking about putting it in water supplies, sneaking it to politicians, started touting it as a panacea that everyone needs to do it, and then lost their credence as non-biased researchers, non-biased clinicians, and thereby, when the inevitable other foot dropped of the kind of capitalism, consumerism, multinational corporation, hey, we like it when people use things, and this is not helpful to that, then that other foot dropped of that capitalistic consumerism model. And again, don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of really good things about capitalism. There's a lot of really good things about a free market. There's a lot of good things about the best kind of winning. And so, like, I'm a fan in large part. And there's pitfalls of any system, right? And so, it's important to recognize those, and it's important to try to be the best versions of ourselves. And it's important to raise each other up. So important. So much of the political landscape and mass media is designed to divide us and to make us feel like there's a other. There isn't a other. Like, I don't care what you think. Well, I guess I do care, because I care about you and what's good for you is good for the universe. And where you see overlap is where you see the truth. And so every organized religion has a lot right and a lot wrong. And there's divinity that exists inside of all of us, and that's for the greater good. And so plugging back into that knowledge is so important, and it exists in all facets, and you can call it what you want. And I love you. And so with the dose makes medicine, dose makes poison. Let's get back into red light therapy, because I can go off on all this stuff, and I know it's a little bit repetitive, because if you listen to my other podcasts, I've done probably most of those other conversations. And so again, UV light, basically 100 to 400 nanometers, and really good for bones, really good for resiliency and immune system functionality, vitamin D synthesis, and too much is bad and too little is bad. And then blue light, and so that's basically 400 to 500 nanometers, and 400 to 600, somewhere in that range. And the blue light really good for like sterilizing. So like you see those blue light, you see those. Those are what they use for sterility and instrumentation. Those are what they use for cleansing things. And so good for acne, good for skin health, good for rosacea and other skin disorders. And then the red light, traditional red light, is the 600 to like 600 to 900, and there's multiple wavelengths in there. The 6 to 660, 700, those are common wavelengths. Really good for skin health, really good for collagen formulation. So like this is like the new facial. It's less invasive, or less mechanical, less expensive, more effective for a lot of people. And it's really good. Like you just come to Rocked, you could do that 20 minutes 3 times a week, between 10 and 20 minutes 3 times a week, and you'll notice visible positive changes in your face structure, as well as skin health in general. And so again, the dose makes medicine, dose makes poison. You don't need to do it every day. If you're dealing with some heavy acne outbreak, getting in front of our panels and doing the skin health setup can be really helpful. And I would argue, 10 to 20 minutes a day daily while you're trying to work on those problem areas until you start noticing improvement. Then you can start going to maintenance, which is like 3 to 5 times weekly versus daily. And then the skin health is again that 600-ish. And then the muscle and joint pain, so good for arthritis, good for bone health and joint health, really good for mitochondrial function. All of them are. And the mitochondria is that powerhouse of your cell, the precursor, and it produces adenosine triphosphate, the energy molecule. Also, red light therapy shows to decalcify certain portions of a cell, and so actually rejuvenates and enlivens and youthfulness for your cellular, like a cellular level. They get to that childlike play state, right? Your cells can do that. I agree in it. I believe in it. And then less calcification, less hardening, less like atherosclerosis of your cells, basically, where there's a hardening and there's a less pliability to it. And when you fire up that mitochondria, when you permeate that cell with this healing red light, it makes everything more fluid. Like, so your cell wall, your Golgi apparatus, your different cellular organelles, including your proteome synthesis. And that's the next wave of medicine, by the way. The genome, we were hopeful for the genome. It shows your proclivity to. It doesn't show even close to the whole picture. When we're looking at personalized medicine, it's going to be proteome based. And in the next decade, you'll see really individualized medical interventions based on your proteome. The issue is it's very time sensitive, and it's tied to multiple factors, including your headspace and your microbiome, what you've been exposed to, what you've eaten, last time you had an antibiotic, all these things that really destroy or cause negative implications to. Everything's healable, right? And so everything's integratable, everything's healable. Big capital bold T's of like early and often physical, sexual, emotional abuse or neglect. That's like the historical, your historical and intergenerational. You could argue some societal implications, the big capital bold T's of those. With the environmental, like the big capital bold T's is like antibiotic exposure, right? It's a detrimental dose of radiation. It's carrying your digital leash with you in your pocket all the time, right? That's probably a bad one, especially these 5Gs, and it's all healable, it's all integratable. And so recognition of that, super powerful. And so that 800, 880, those are common nanometers of the deeper penetrating red light. And so, there's different wattage of the red lights. There's different LED counts of the red lights. There's different size, and there's so many different factors when you're looking into a red light panel. You want to maximize your benefits, and you want a customizable panel. Again, we got the really good ones at Rocked in Flagstaff and in Prescott Valley that have all the helpful types of red light for, again, skin and anti-aging and anti-oxidizing and cellular health and cellular rejuvenation and your anti-aging collagen production, ATP production, and the 880, 800 nanometers, the deeper penetrating red light that is good for joint health, arthritis, joint pain, helps with blood flow. And so like these are the types of so for hair loss, it's a common red light therapy usage. And so microneedling and stem cells and the mesenchymal stem cells and red light therapy. And again, the more avenues you address a problem from, more likely you're going to get capture. Joint pain, knee pain, back pain, often inflammation based, at least exacerbated by. And I had a really good story. A back surgeon in town in Flagstaff. He was up at Lake Powell kneeboarding, and then had a little bit of a slip disc. By the time he went in and got his MRI, he's like, I mostly felt better, but I just got it because I wanted to see my imaging. And he said, Casey, my back looks worse than 95% of the patients I do back surgery on. And I was like, oh my gosh. And of course, he's never had a surgery, nor does he intend to have one. And so, what he's doing is working for his back health and his mental health. So, like, we can spiral upwards and we can spiral downwards, right? And so, a big part of red light therapy, I think, is showing up for yourself, right? Making that conscious decision. And so you're like, hey, I'm investing in myself. I'm showing up for this treatment 3 to 5 to 7 times a week. And I know that this is an investment in my health. And I'm standing here and yeah, there's cellular, benefits to it, obviously. And so you're getting the cellular benefits from the permeation of the positive healing rays of red light therapy. And then you're also in the blue light if you choose that setting. And then you're also getting the mental health benefits of choosing yourself, right? I always say the best investment you can ever make is yourself, right? So our limitless memberships, you have unlimited access to those panels, and you just book it right online, like boop, boop, boop. And then you come in and you enjoy yourself, and man, I love that thing. It feels so good standing in front of the red light panel. And there's so many things like that are coming down the pipeline. Really good for mental health, really good for depression, really good for SAD, seasonal affective disorder, really good for suicidality even. And I think again, there's multiple avenues that you're coming at it from there. That's why I really like ROCKed as the acronym, that revitalize. Like we need that reset oftentimes to really get there. And ROCKed can be a precursor to Revitalized Ketamine Clinic, and it should be considered like aftercare for everyone. There's so many reasons investing in yourself and your wellness is valuable for you to live your best life. And so we got cool things coming up. We got a breath work, cold therapy workshop. We've got a conscious connection workshop. I'm thinking of doing a tree hugging workshop, like legitimately. Have you ever done this? This was news to me. I just found this out a few months ago by a famous inventor in town, Joel. He's amazing. And if you get close to a ponderosa pine tree, they have 3 different scents. One is vanilla, one is berry, and then the other one is I think chocolate. But get up in there. Just get up in there. Literally hug that tree. It's funny, right? Because like again, we're proving past wisdom with science, and there was all this poo-pooing and woo-wooing, and it's like, oh, that's stupid. You're a tree hugger, and now we're recognizing that, like, hey, there's a lot of real physiological benefits to hugging a tree, and so it's just so interesting, And so go be punk rock. Go hug a tree in your neighborhood. Tell me in the comments if it smells like vanilla. Or berries or something else entirely. Make sure you didn't step in any doggy delights because we don't want that aroma. And have clean up after your pet. That's always important. Be a good human. So mental health benefits. There's actually eye benefits. Dr. Jack Kruse, Kruse. He's a big proponent of red light therapy for a multitude of reasons, and I believe it was him who had his father-in-law or someone like that. Maybe it's someone else, but some provider who's been touting the benefits of red light therapy for a long time went ahead and recommended to his father-in-law to use red light therapy on, I think, like his joints, like his wrists were having issues, and that inflammation again goes way down. So getting in front of a red light panel for joint health and inflammation and pain. Again, about 20 minutes a day, kind of around the clock until that inflammation goes down. Just like you don't need to go more than 20 minutes a day. Like you can't, if you're dealing with, multiple issues, you might need rotisserie of some sort if you're in front of our panels. As we get more members, I'd love to get the panel sandwich, but bootstrapping right now. So, do the best you can with what you have. And I'd love to get you in there. I'd love to find your support for ROCKed. and revitalize. Again, remember what's good for you is good for the universe, and remember that we're here to support you in your growth and development. Know that we also offer ozone therapy. And so, like I was talking about, that Montreal 1987 reduce CFCs, so chlorofluorocarbons that go up in the. And I remember my buddy, he was, being punk rock at the time. He had 2 bottles of CFC containing Lysol, and we were teenagers, right? Everything in moderation, including moderation. And he was frolicking down his driveway, spraying both Lysol bottles. And just the cynicism, and just it's like funny, it's because it's heartbreaking, right? Like, if you're not laughing, you're crying. And his father was the one that always told me, you know try this, Casey, when you're thinking about wishing for something. Poop in one hand and then wish in the other, and see which one fills up first. This is like, you're right, like it's true. And it's like really cynical and kind of sad to like say those types of things out loud. It's like, how about hard work pays off? There's another way of saying the same thing. And so, and maybe like I needed to hear that, right? So maybe you needed to hear that. And so again, 600s are skin health in general, 800s joint, deeper muscle penetration. And I'm arguing that you're going to see all sorts of benefits downstream. So like our gut, right, has more neurotransmitters in our brain. And I like to think of it as like a leaky or sopping wet towel, right? And so, like with some ego dissolution agents and ketamine at times, you'll see profound nausea appear with people. More commonly with ayahuasca, I would say. And I mean, like you look at the consistency of that stuff and smell it. It smells like vomit. And so, and it's made like at the center of the earth kind of thing, the equator, and there's vines and stuff. And it's like all this wisdom passed down for thousands of years in Mayan culture. And you look at some of the history of psychedelics and what breakthroughs occurred when you get out of your own way. And now you look at the new stuff like the microdosing Fridays in Silicon Valley, and you look at high performers like Elon Musk, who touts the benefits of ketamine therapy. And again, dose makes medicine, dose makes a poison. If you're doing anything all day long that is designed to keep you from feeling things, like that's not ideal. If you're working towards your ikigai, like if you have of gifts and you're working towards making a system better, like what's good for you is good for the universe. And so being cognizant of that as you're navigating your life, and choose love. Like, don't let the powers that be divide us. Remember that you have way more in common with your MAGA hat wearing neighbor, um, than you have apart. And so you're both human beings. Likely you both want the best for people. Likely if there's fear, there's hatred, it's born out of fear and a lack of understanding. And so, I think understanding and delving in, I like Alex Hormozy's, like, I don't vote because it takes so much time. And then people argued to him, they're like, it takes 5 minutes. He's like, yeah, it takes 5 minutes if you're an idiot. Like, if you just believe everything that is dictated to you, to actually dive into the issues and find non-biased sources to determine, what a candidate is really standing for. So challenging, right? Like, people will have on their candidacy websites like all these things, like pro-immigration and pro, abortion or whatever, like they say, and then you like look at their voting history and you look at their, um, you know, what they've done in the past, and you look at what bills they've supported, and you're like, whoa, 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 like that's not what you say on your website. And so it's like these super PACs and all these things. Like, I think there should be term limits. I think that's something that should happen for all politicians. The fact that there's these politicians that have been politicians since their 20s, that have amassed hundreds of millions of dollars in wealth, while claiming to be a public servant. It's like, fresh eyes. Fresh eyes are so important. And so that's why whenever we bring on new people at Revitalize and Rock, like I really want them to feel the processes and assimilate, and then hey, like tell me where the room for improvement is. Like I love being a small organization and being at the top, so I can be like, okay, like that's absolutely right. That needs to change. That stinks. That's a dumb system. And so like let's do that. Yeah, help me with that. And it's about surrounding yourself with the right people. Like we're going into research. I'm super excited for that. We've got a principal investigator, and we've got some really cool connections of people like deeply in the space. We're doing some cool stuff with Epic Biosciences that has been kind of laying and waiting for a while, and I think it's finally about to come to fruition, and it's going to be able to help a lot of people. And the fact that we can do this at a large scale, I think the best changes that you can make to a system are from within the system. And so if you adapt to a system and come up from within it while remaining in your childlike mindset or learner's mind, um, you're able to really dive deeper into that. So being aware of that, and like just be curious, like go play, like get your limitless membership at Rock, like amazing deal for what you have access to. Like some places are like $40-$50 a session for red light therapy, $250 monthly unlimited access to red light therapy. Super legit panel. Like you can get the little Amazon panels. You are not going to get the health benefits you get from this 5 watt 450 LED combination panel. And so yeah, I'm here for you. Like if you can't afford it, like go out, get red light sun, play outside, listen to this. This is free, and do those things that um, are good for you. And invest in yourself. Like if you have the option to go out drinking 4 or 5 nights alcohol, or get a Rock membership and sit in a social sauna and hang out with people who are working on themselves. Come to Flow Friday and experience flow arts. Create and cultivate at the open mic Wednesdays, and like read some poetry, sing a song with your guitar. Like I want people to be bad at stuff, right? You can't be good at anything if you weren't bad at stuff. Like I love that when you look at like the best people in the world at something, they've failed more times than you've tried by a long shot, right? And so be aware of that as you're watching these super high performers, and know that we're here to support you. Like I'm super excited. I'm rooting for your success. I don't care how you get there. If that is in part with seeing us at Revitalized Ketamine Clinic or at Rocked Wellness Bar, I love that. If that's not, I love that. I don't care what you do, how you do it. I just do want you to invest in yourself. I do want you to become the best version of yourself. Red light therapy has the potential to help that. And so consistency is really key if you're trying to treat something. Like a daily medication, right? Like you're working on depression. And, again, a great argument for depression medications is there's something about your situation that you're unwilling or unable to change. Daily medication's great for that. And so, being aware of that, and to make it work, you got to take it daily, right? And so same thing with like a blood pressure medication or antibiotics, like taking it daily and on time is so important, right? Paramount for success. And so if you're treating, joint pain, or you're treating skin issues, like be consistent, like show up for yourself consistently daily for 7 days a week for, I would say, 4 weeks before you give up on it, because you're going to start noticing benefits probably right after the very first session, but they'll be minimal. They'll be so minimal that you might not even be noticeable. And to really get the benefit of the anti-inflammation, to really wake those cells up, to make them more permeable, to be able to be more fluid, less calcium, less hardened, less old and sad, like getting that beginner's mind, right, in all the ways. And so like age is a number, right? Like when people, like, oh, I'm 29, I'm like, oh, 12, whatever, 2. And so, joke, have fun, like be silly, dance, move. Motion is lotion, movement is medicine. And know we're here to support you. Red light therapy is so good for so many reasons. Ozone therapy, also really good for many reasons. Oxygen therapy, really good for lots of reasons. We have the hyperbaric chamber down here in PV. We have, the oxygen bar at both locations. Antioxidants. We do the IVs. We do the NAD+, the superhuman protocol. Pairs really well with ketamine treatments. So you're doing 5 over 10 days, so it's a lot. And like it really tunes up your whole body. You combine that with red light therapy, you combine that with mesenchymal stem cells, like you are treating like issues, and you are being able to circumvent surgeries in large part. And so the mesenchymal stem cells, that's super interesting stuff. I really like those delivered systemically. And the way to fire up the localization is to use modalities like red light therapy and dry needling to be able to increase blood flow to where you want it, like as a precursor to the mesenchymal systemic. And you're going to see like incredible benefits without the increased risk of like opening up a joint capsule and stuff with a surgical procedure in OR. And that's what the latest evidence supports there as well. So really interesting stuff. Thanks for joining me today on the red light therapy talk. So again, for the most part, for most people, I'm going to recommend glasses. That being said, there is some evidence coming out that the antioxidant effects are really powerful. One other thing is like really cool, exposure to natural sunlight actually increases. So it's like your brain. This is your brain, right? Your brain. And so being able, like, that's like brain tissue in the back of your eyes, and that is your optic nerve, and that is like a direct connection to your brain. And they're beautiful. Some people have such pretty eyes. And give someone a compliment today, like try to build other people up around you. Remember, we can cycle up or we can cycle downwards. And so just like comedy without an element of truth, it really doesn't land. So it has to have an element of truth. And so if you're complimenting people, just compliment them. Don't do it. If you feel like something like, oh, that's a cool shirt, that's a cool tie, thanks, I like my tie too, then say it. Like, that feels good. Like, it feels good to hear someone hearing you and seeing you and feeling you. So do that. Take that extra time. Build someone else up and build yourself up by process. I say the best gift you can give someone is letting them legitimately help you. And so, no, there's a lot of ways to do it. And red light therapy is a great augmenter. And the more addition or the more avenues you can address a problem from, more likely you are to get capture. And remember, what's good for you is good for the universe. Thanks for joining today. And this is Casey Dubravcic signing off. Might as well just do it here. Thank you for joining me for another Mental Wealth Moves podcast. I'm your host, Casey Dubravcic, owner and operator of Revitalized Ketamine Clinics and Rocked Wellness Bar, as well as co-founder of Epic Biosciences and the founder of Psychedelic Psychiatry and Mental Wealth Moves podcast, because the best investment you can ever make is yourself. Thanks for joining us today on the benefits and pitfalls of red light therapy. I guess I really didn't touch on pitfalls too much, but there are some. Dose makes medicine, dose makes poison, right? Not doing it can be a hindrance. And then exposing your eyes too much could potentially be a hindrance. I keep my eyes closed during most of my sessions. I don't put the glasses on, and I feel good about that. And yeah, thanks for joining me. I hope you had a wonderful time and learned a lot. And reach out if you have any questions or just leave a comment. Thanks, and make it a great day. Thanks so much for listening to another Mental Wealth Moves podcast. I'm your host, Casey Dubravcic, and if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to reach out anytime via our normal phone number, 928-248-8082. If you know someone who is not living their best life and could use some support, we have lots of different options to help you remember how to help yourself. Between Rocked Wellness Bar and Revitalized Ketamine Clinics, we have the tools, the knowledge, and the ability to help you remember how capable you've always been. Reach out today.